Well, I wanted to be an Indian. You know, kids are playing like cowboys and Indians. I always wanted to be an Indian before I wanted to go into music, but I think being a musician is easier than to be an Indian for a Finnish fellow such as me.
As with many rock and roll tales, the story of him was set in motion very early on in the band members' lives. The group's personnel, past and present, were infected by the rock and roll bug at an age when they appeared defenceless to intervene. Him's charismatic, outspoken frontman, Ville was born on the 22nd of November 1976 in Helsinki, Finland. His father was a taxi driver and a sex shop worker, whereas his mother worked in an office. His brother was born in 1983 and carved out a career as a kickboxer. His family lived in Ville for the first few months of Ville's life, surrounded by houses built from wood. Soon they moved to Ulonkaila, where he lived for the next 17 years. The Scandinavian climate was a breeding ground for a particular kind of melancholy, which was to influence Ville as he grew up and absorbed music. Ville's formative musical experience arrived when he was just 2 years old. He remembered watching a friend, Yalu, perform as Elvis at a family party. Properly attired in white rhinestone jumpsuit, his act included versions of Heartbreak Hotel and Let Me Be Your Teddy Bear. This tapped into something in the young Ville's soul, and there was no looking back. A connection was made. Inspired by what he saw and heard, Ville grabbed his father's bongo drums and began tapping on them. Here began a fascination with the primal energies of musical expression and creativity. He began listening to the radio and the music of his parents and threw himself into learning as many musical instruments as he could. His parents recognised his aptitude and enthusiasm and enrolled him in music school. At the age of 8, Ville experienced his next major musical revelation, hearing Animalize by Kiss, which he then went out and bought. He instinctively knew that the heaviosity and power of Kiss were mapping out his future musical development. At school, Ville was a wild, hyperactive, energetic child, constantly fighting with other children and causing disruption in the classroom. It was as if he had something burning in his soul which needed expression. At the age of 7, he attended an investigation by the education authorities into his antisocial behaviour. He had pipes attached to him which collected magnetic signals from his brain. Following this, he was granted special permission to draw pictures in the classroom, the activity which kept him calm and focused. After upper classes, he attended evening secondary school for a year and a half, and then quit. Throughout adolescence, Ville immersed himself in the sounds of Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, Iron Maiden, Iggy Pop and the Stooges, Napalm Death and Carcass. Although he also developed an affinity for the folk and country-tinged music of the likes of Neil Young and Cat Stevens, he became entranced by the catharsis of satanic, dark, brooding hard rock and metal. He met Midge, Hymn's bass legend, in 3rd class at school, where they bonded over the healing properties of music and the bass guitar in particular. In school, he had an ambivalent attitude towards performing. He was apprehensive about singing in front of an audience and never considered himself a natural performer. But suddenly, something clicked inside him, and he felt liberated. His moment of self-realisation arrived when he heard Angel Dust by Faith No More and Nothing Shocking by Jane's Addiction, both pivotal works of 1980s alternative rock. The band's lead singers, Mike Patton and Perry Farrell, were a source of fascination and laid out a kind of blueprint for him to follow. Ville left the family home at the age of 18 and moved to Helsinki, bolstered by financial assistance from his parents. He mastered a range of musical instruments and played bass guitar and drums in a whole host of bands, ranging in styles from grindcore to reggae. Elovina Boys, Aurora, Terapia, Chemotherapia, Wiener, Natas and Unga Cascalotta were just some of the groups to have been blessed with his talents. He had also developed another creative passion, namely painting, which he pursued seriously at art school for a while. Midge, the trusty, elegant bass colossus of him, was born on the 19th of December 1974 in Helsinki. He was christened Mikko Henrik Julius Parnainen. His father was an orchestra musician in Helsinki and his mother was an actress. He lived in Ulonkaila with his parents and brother until he was 13, when his parents divorced. He moved out with his mother to Tuusula. Hailing from such a strong artistic family, he was always surrounded by music from a very young age. There was an inevitability about his musical progression and his future career direction. Whereas Midge became immersed in heavy riffing guitar rock and metal, his brother fell in with the hip-hop and breakdancing crowd. He met Ville at the age of 12 and hit it off with him immediately. They both liked the bass guitar and competed with each other to become the best. After completing school, Midge attended the Sibelius Musical Academy, where he learned the formal rules of musical education.